Hey kids, Anderson Cowan here, talking today about Ghostbusters Afterlife. Okay, all right. All right, what are you gonna get if you turn off? All right, what happens to you, to me? What happened to me when I went and saw Ghostbusters Afterlife last night? What is it all about? What are you getting if you pay and sit down and spend a couple hours of your life with Ghostbusters Afterlife? Okay, it's no secret that Jason Reitman directed this. It's his dad, Ivan Reitman's original property, even though it's not his. I mean, that is to say, he directed the first one. He had quite the string there. He did Meatballs. He did Stripes. This is Ivan Reitman, obviously, and then he did Ghostbusters and various other movies. Kindergarten Cop, I love that movie. And his son has been working somewhat in the shadows, even though his son has some very, very early success. And this has been in the works for a while now. He's wanted to reinvent Ghostbusters. And the word meta is definitely apt for this movie, I think. It's a prefix, meta, to things such as metabolism and metascore, metaphysics, and metaphor. Metaphors are rife in this movie. Okay, so the son got the keys to the castle, essentially, right? Jason got the keys. It's his dad's property, even though it was Dan Aykroyd was the one who came up with the story. It was his story, because this was actually based on things that Dan Aykroyd believes in, and that's a whole different story. But Dan Aykroyd is the one who brought the actual original idea to the studio, got the original one made, and the original one wasn't supposed to be the hit that it was. It was kind of a surprise hit. It didn't work in a lot of ways, but it had a heart, and it was goofy screwball comedy that people could really relate to. And at the time, that song was a banger. That was a great song. I mean, I was a small child when it came out, but that song really, I have to say that, well, this might sound crazy, but without that Ghostbusters song, and making everyone feel good, Busted makes people feel good, that movie doesn't get quite the, doesn't have all the legs that it has. So Jason got the keys to the castle. It's as though a child wandered into a farmhouse and found the Ecto-1 and didn't have a license, wasn't even old enough to drive yet, and starts driving around. That scene takes place in this movie. There's a lot of very self-aware things that happen in this movie, as far as it being the son of the original director making this movie. It was as though Jason was obsessed with the original movie, but also wanted to make his own. And what ended up happening was you get this cream and berries type concoction. Now, that's a dessert some people order. My dad used to order cream and berries all the time. I never understood it. If you want to get a dessert, you get something like a treat, like a real treat. Don't get berries in my treat. However, it's a real dessert that people like. And this thing is cream and memberberries, meaning that there's some good stuff, that's the cream, and there's a whole lot of memberberries. The main problem that I had is there was very little cream. It was pretty much all berries. I might have sent it back, even though I'm not the type to send things back to the kitchen, but I'd be like, hey, where's the cream? And where there was cream, it was like inside the berries. Like the only cream that I really found was inside the berries. So the story is this. I'm not going to get it, heavy on the plot here, but a grandparent dies. It opens up with a pretty fun scene. Probably the best part of the whole movie is actually the opening sequence, where there's a chase going on, a car chase, and then it goes back to this old farmhouse where we've all seen the trailer probably, and then there's a showdown, and then lo and behold, that guy doesn't make it. Whoever's fighting that ghost, and this family of three, single mom, two teenage kids, Finn Wolfhard, and then McKenna Grace. She's pretty much the lead. She is the lead. She's like a 13-year-old girl who's really into science. She loves her science. And here's the tone of the comedy that you're going to get in Ghostbusters Afterlife. There's a scene, I think it was even in the trailer, where there's like an earthquake going on, and the whole family's in this new haunted-looking farmhouse out in Oklahoma. And the three of them are underneath the table, and everything's shaking violently. And Finn Wolfhard gives us this hilarious line. He says, "Remember that summer when we all died under the table?" No, I don't remember it because it's happening right now. Do you remember when that movie Ghostbusters was really popular and we all loved it, and in the 80s? So the rest of the movie is more metaphor, more like, what if the kids actually had to take over and become Ghostbusters themselves? And for the most part, It propels the story, even though it was frustrating at times because I wanted some more. I was hoping for more of the same vibe from the original, and the vibe from the original is just not there. It's similar in the spookiness of it and the effects. The most positive thing I have to say about this movie, by far and away, are the practical effects. There are many practical effects in this movie which you don't see anymore, and I really appreciated. As you know, that's member berries for the nerds, I guess. Because I mean, I loved seeing those big dogs, like actual big dogs. They were the real thing. Like they had them right there. They actually had Finn Wolfhard driving through the cornfields. I mean, that was all real. They put a Corvette engine in the Ecto-1 and had him just punch it, which was kind of cool. But what it really relies on are the member berries. Like I said, that's more of this movie is member berries than cream, and they borrow. And sometimes just outright steal from other things that have nothing to do with Ghostbusters. If you're a fan, as most of us are, of Steven Spielberg's early works, such as E.T., it's like a lot of the movie takes place. Remember that scene in E.T. where there's the corn stalks and you got the shed over there and the softball going back and forth? Like, the house is like on a the farm that has corn stalks and is lit like Spielberg from E.T. So you get that vibe, a lot of E.T. vibes. There's even some gremlin thievery going on here for unknown reasons. It's never explained, but Stay Puft, I mean, it's obligatory. We have to see Stay Puft in some form or another, right? Stay Puft is small now, and there's many of them, and they're doing gremlin-like things in Walmart. It's never explained, and I understand it's a goofy movie about ghosts, but I mean, give me some explanation as to why one package of Stay Puft marshmallows have all animated, and now they're running amok in Walmart, and literally, like, there's a blender scene where a Stay Puft gets blended up. Also, thievery occurs in a sidekick character named Podcast. His name is Podcast because he's a young boy who walks around with recording equipment and he likes to do a podcast. Because we have to continue to remind ourselves that, hey, this isn't a period piece, even though it looks like a period piece, because there are people wandering around with phones every now and again trying to get signal. There is a terrible woke joke in there. I want to say terrible, but it felt forced. And there's a young kid who does podcasts. His character was lifted, as far as I can tell, directly from I have to admit this now, the Mighty Ducks reboot, which is on Disney Plus, which is a series which I have watched most of, which is pretty good. But there's a kid in there who's a podcaster, play-by-play guy, and then becomes a hockey player for the Don't Bothers. And that character is almost a duplicate in this movie as Podcast. Like, they just took that character and they said, why don't we just do a character just like that and put him in this movie? We come to a place where we're teetering on pillaging from the past, which this movie is doing, and then also robbing the present of anything new and fresh and original, because what are the generation that's into Ghostbusters? My kid obviously is huge. I'm gonna have to go back and see this again with him. I'll cover his eyes. There's a couple jump scares that we don't want to expose him to, and there's a couple sexual references, which the first one was like chock full of sexual references, but I was way too young to get any of them. But like 15, 20, 30 years from now, like what is the young generation going to be nostalgic about? Like our nostalgia that became their, I guess they have like Marvel and whatnot, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's dangerous ground. Like we're borrowing so much and playing so much in the member berries, and we're not creating enough new stuff, I think, to even have member berries 30 years from now. But I guess the world would be on fire by then, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe that's what this is all about. We're trying to recycle all the things from our past while we still can, before the world is over. Oh, that just got dark, huh? But whereas the first one was an adult comedy with a bunch of like fun elements for kids, adventure elements for kids, this one is like a teen dramedy a lot of the time, and it really is like probably the most meta movie I've seen in quite some time. As far as it was obviously on the forefront of the filmmaker's mind that he got the keys to the Ghostbusters franchise and was trying to do his best. But ultimately, I don't think that he was the right person to do this, because I think that he has a bit too much reverence for what his dad did, and it really did feel like he was trying to make something to make his dad happy. And he seems like a nice guy. I've heard him in interviews with my boy Bill Burr. And some people like his movies a lot. People love Juno. People love Thank You for Smoking. People really like that Up in the Air. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Ultimately, it's another one of these 3-star movies where, you know, I think it could have been special, but it left me. But it's for what it is. It's fine, I guess. I hate to come off like I just hate every movie, and that's not the case. But I have high expectations for certain things, and rarely do they meet the criteria that I guess is in my own head. But you know, I know that video games are blowing movies out of the water right now, and I gotta think that like things like this, like big productions like this, aren't helping that challenge, that struggle. I mean, I don't see 14, 15-year-old kids like gravitating towards memberberries for people like me, and there's not nearly enough stuff in there for somebody of my age to really get on board with, because it's a similar story but told through children. So it just feels like it's misdirected, misguided. What the hell? What do I know? I'm just some guy talking about other people's movies here. Happy Friday, everybody. Here's to looking forward to 30 years from now when we get to see Chloe Zhao's daughter make Eternals again. That was a stretch, I know. I'm sorry. Happy Friday, everybody.